Steve went off to college, Reed College in Portland, Oregon. He was much more of a free spirit regarding schooling than I was. He went and signed up for some standard first-year courses, but he only attended other courses that he wasn't signed up for that he wanted to. So he never did the normal schooling in addition to what he felt was worthwhile, like Shakespeare courses and whatnot. So he didn't go very far in school, like maybe a day or two. I went to, after the year at University of California at Berkeley, that was my third year of college, good grades, computer science curriculum. I wound up taking a couple of jobs to earn some money for my fourth year of school, and things go on and start progressing in your career, and it can be very difficult to get back for a long time. I wound up at Hewlett-Packard, working as an engineer, helping design calculator circuits for their scientific calculators. 1 year before, they had introduced the HB35 calculator, and it was taking the world by storm. It was causing dramatic social revolutions. It was very clear that slide rules would be obsolete within a few years, and they were. I was so intrigued by this being the most incredible product I'd ever seen in my life, and I was so delighted to be able to get a job to work there. So I worked on doing logic design on some of the circuits. In the meantime, I got a little bit out of my computer background. I didn't follow the mini computers and where they were going. They were just getting a little too big to be interesting anymore. It was not, you know, the new machines where you can think about where 4K of RAM will go and how a basic compiler can actually work in 4K. Well, so I started my electronics interest, my electronics hobby turned towards other pursuits. In a bowling alley, saw the first version of Pong. And it was a little taken by it. It's very grabbing, and it shook you the first time you ever saw it. My God, I've never seen anything like this before. Well, I sat there, and I said something else. I said, I took electronics in high school. I know how TV signals work, and I know how to design computer circuits. I'm going to build a Pong. So that was my goal, to build a very simple, with very few circuits, Pong game. And the only two circuits that were probably optional that I put in were ones that, if you said, they were a couple of proms. The biggest prom you could possibly think of getting or affording in those days was 256 by 4. That's only half of 256 bytes on one prom. Very difficult to get. EROMs were not affordable by individuals. So I got two of these proms because we used them in our calculator lab. And when you missed the ball, and the only reason I learned how to program the proms was when you missed the ball, it would say, oh darn, or something a little stronger. It was a very useful experience leading into building a computer, an individual computer that had a prom built in. One day Steve Jobs he would get jobs at Atari on and off and work as somewhere between technician and engineer, trying to get products into development and hustling things around. And he became very enamored by the Atari culture of the early days, and especially the founder Nolan Bushnell, whom he was very close to. And he just knew all the top people, and he's just a very persuasive, high-energy person who gets into the deepest levels of everything. He came to me one day and said, Nolan Bushnell has this game that he wants done called Breakout, or they were thinking at first of calling it Brickout. A bunch of bricks and a little ball that bounces around. And Steve said, look, I've seen you design stuff, and you know, you're far ahead of me, so I said, could you design this thing? And I said, well, yeah, boy, I'd just love to, just to show that I can design it. You know, no motivation other than that. Steve said, well, he'll pay us $700 if we give them a working breadboard. And if it's under 40 chips, they'll give us $1,000. And you know, it could have been 20 cents. I could care less. The challenge was more the intrigue. But Steve said there's one problem. He said he had to go to Oregon in 4 days to work on some friend's farm. I think he probably had to buy into it or something. And he needed money in 4 days. So we had 4 days to sit down from scratch, design a game in very few chips, because that's what we were being paid for, that somebody else had defined exactly where the score was on the screen. In other words, you couldn't save one chip to move the score. You had to put it where it was intended to be. Very difficult task for 4 days. Well, got right on it. We both stayed up all night long, 4 nights in a row. Catch a couple of winks of sleep in the morning. That was about it. We both got mononucleosis from it. And we were really stressing ourselves, but we actually did design it. Atari had to, I think, redesign it somewhat. They said their engineers saw it and they couldn't figure out the design. So I know that it was mine.